Welcome to this episode about empty legs. Is buying an empty leg a good idea? If you are a charter company, is offering empty legs a good idea? And these are the questions we're going to answer in today's episode of BizJet TV. Welcome to the channel if it's your first time here. My name is Fabrizio. I'm the creator of the channel. We're approaching 1,000 videos, so if you haven't subscribed, subscribe, and also get yourself a copy of The Quantum Economy. If you are contemplating chartering, leasing, buying a private jet, you need to read The Quantum Economy. Lots of information on here about the business of the future, entrepreneurship, and the stories of people like you that decided to include the private jet as a business tool in their kit to do business. And this is why they have joined the quantum economy, and they're going faster, better, and bigger than anybody else and all their competitors. So let's talk about empty legs. So what is an empty leg? Now, when you call up for a charter, the airplane that you need may actually not be located in the place where you are. And I'll give you an example. I did a charter the other week for a client, and it was a charter from Farnborough in the UK to Cairo in Egypt. And the airplane was coming in from Nice in France. So the Nice-Farnborough leg was flown early morning as an empty leg. It was a positioning flight basically. Arrived in Farnborough and then picked my passenger up and moved them over to Cairo. Now, what happens, what a lot of the charter companies are doing these days is when they have these so-called positioning flights, they put it back on the market and sell it as an empty leg. Now, this is a bad thing for the charter company, and it's a bad thing for you trying to charter an empty leg. And let me explain why and what happens and what the story is behind this. Because it's really important that you understand this, because I get too many people reach out to me and they want to fly private on the cheap. And they go into these apps and it's driving the price down. Unfortunately, a lot of brokers out there, they're playing the game of bringing the price down. And it's all about price, 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 which is very, very wrong. I mean, and I understand people do that because they're used to the airlines playing that game. But the airlines kind of can play that game because of the scale of flights that they do. Bearing in mind that, you know, the average airliner, in order to break even, one plane needs to fly 4,000 hours. Private jets don't fly 4,000 hours a year. I mean, you're lucky if you fly 500 hours a year. Usually they fly about 300 hours. That's kind of average. So you as a charter company are not going to make any money really chartering this plane out. That's, you know, a fact. I mean, where the charter companies make money, they make money on the management of the aircraft, they make money on the maintenance. That's how they make money. But their margins are really, really slim. So what happens when you sell this empty leg? Now, of course, the positioning of this flight that I did for my client, the Nice to London positioning flight, was built into the cost of the actual charter. So now you're saying, well, why does this guy have to pay for positioning? It's just the way it is. It's just the nature of the business. Okay, that's how it works. That's why when you book a private jet flight, you need to sort of figure out what day and time you're going to leave, and then you need to lock the flight in right away so you don't end up incurring extra costs. And that really, really is important. So when you fly this empty leg, the empty leg is already paid for. So the charter company put it back on the market and try and sell it at a discount. And you're talking, you know, sometimes even 50-60% less than what it would normally cost. So let's say that leg costs $20,000, okay? On the empty leg market, you could probably buy it for $12,000. So what happens? You are looking to fly a private, and you go in and you buy this empty leg for $12,000. Great, I got a great deal, $12,000. Now in your head, the next time you go back to book a charter, you're thinking, well, I paid, you know, for a Nice London, I paid $12,000. In your mind, that's the price. So you go back to the charter companies or to the broker and you're trying to negotiate the price down. Then on the other end, the operators, because they're trying to, you know, make the plane fly and try and show the owner that the airplane's flying some hours. And bear in mind that if the airplane flies more, chances are something's going to go wrong. It's going to break down. Now, I'm the management company. I own a maintenance company. If the airplane breaks down, guess what? I get to repair it. I make money on the repair. I make my 30% on the spare parts. I make maybe a little bit on the charter, a little bit on the empty leg. I'm making money. The owner now has his airplane in the shop for a week, can't use it. It's not making any revenue for him. It's a great disadvantage for Mr. Owner, okay? The other thing, but the management company don't realize that, you know, the positioning flight is actually a great opportunity for their pilots to get in some manual flying. Now, bear in mind that a lot of private jet companies only send their pilots to the simulator once a year instead of twice a year. The airlines train their guys twice a year in the simulator, some airlines even 3 to 4 times a year, depending if they have their own simulator training facility and that. They own the simulators, then sometimes the pilots get to go in the simulator a lot more. Some airlines open up the simulators and say, hey, we've got some extra time here in the simulator. If you want to book yourself in, go ahead and do so. And you want to practice some maneuvers, go ahead and do so. It's a bit like having your own gym and saying to your employees, we've got the gym there with a personal trainer, use it as much as you want. You know, these guys are going to be a lot fitter. So for an airline to be able to do that, that's great. But, you know, the private jet, because what happens with the private jet is a lot of these simulators, first of all, there aren't many simulators for private jets because they don't build as many. I mean, if you're talking training someone in a Boeing 737 or an A320, there's loads of simulators out there because there's loads of Boeing 737s and A320s. So consequently, you've got lots of options for your training, maybe something close by, and the prices are a lot lower. When you're talking flying, you know, a Gulfstream G550 or a Global 7500, there are only like 3-4 simulators in the world. So first of all, you've got to get a slot. Second, it may be on the other side of the world, so you've got to fly all the way. So what companies do is they say, we'll just send our guys out once a year. Now, as you can imagine, if you've learned anything, you know how important it is when you're learning something not to try and go and cram everything in one session. If you split it into different sessions, it's going to stick in your memory, and especially in your muscle memory, a lot better if you do it over a number of different sessions. So going in the simulator 4 times a year instead of once a year and cramming it all in that 1 week is going to be a lot better. So you want to try and go 4 times. But, you know, you have to also realize that, you know, doing that, if the simulator's in Dallas and you're based in London, you know, you've got to send your guys out there a couple of days before, bring them back a couple, you know, it's going to take time. And during this time, the guys aren't practicing. So and of course, manual flying is an important thing to practice. So you've got to practice maneuvers in the simulator, but when you're flying passengers, you don't want to be flying your passengers doing a lot of manual flying. What you want to do as a pilot, and we're told this, is to make the flight as smooth as possible. So you want to take off 400 feet, engage the autopilot, let the autopilot fly the airplane, and then disengage the autopilot maybe 200 feet and land, and make it a smooth flight for the passengers. You don't want to be doing this manual flying. So if you've got positioning flights, it's an opportunity for your pilots to get in some manual flying, which will improve their proficiency and improve safety for the passengers, as well as improving the pilot's ability. So it's a great opportunity there. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to be selling the empty legs. And you, Mr. Charter person, don't want to really be buying these empty legs. Because the other problem is, if I sell the empty leg, say we sold this, the empty leg was sold on the Nice to London flight. The crew would have had to got catering for these passengers, make sure the aeroplane's clean, they get them on board, they fly into London, and the passengers get off, then they have to clean the aeroplane for the next flight. That's all extra work and stress on the crew and on the flight attendant, the pilots and the flight attendant. And they didn't have the opportunity to do some manual flying. So there's lots of disadvantages here all round. So this anti-leg thing is actually a virus. I call it a virus in the private jet world. Already I talk about this, and I'm one of the very few that talks about this in the quantum economy. I talk about the safety record of private aviation. You are paying 15 times more money than flying first class when you charter a private jet, and you've got almost 10 times more chances of crashing and dying, because that's what the stats actually say. You take the number of flights there are per year and accidents, and you compare that to the number of flights and accidents in the airline world, and you can clearly see that, you know, private aviation is a lot more dangerous than flying with the airlines. But it can be a lot safer, but things need to be done in a certain way. And when you look at the spreadsheets, you know, and you look at the spreadsheet, and I've said this before, you know, the cost of salaries for pilots, the cost of training is quite a big factor in the overall cost per hour to operate the airplane. And that's why private jet charter, very rarely the numbers do work. Everyone's trying to cut corners, everyone's bringing prices down, and consequently, you know, it becomes more and more dangerous, because if they're going to cut corners, they're going to cut corners on pilot salaries and training. Because you can't cut corners on, you know, maintenance, because, you know, parts cost what they cost. Yes, you can go and buy second-hand parts, and things like that, which some people do, okay, and use cheap labour, which some people do, which is dangerous, so they do cut corners on there. You can't cut corners on landing fees, because the fee is what it is. You can't cut corners on the price of fuel, okay? So the corners are cut on the maintenance, on the spare parts, the quality of the spare parts, on the pilot training and the pilot salary. Now, these are all factors which play into bad safety culture. And this is really, really important. And without, you know, counting also the fact that a lot of these private jet pilots start off flying a King Air, and then suddenly the boss buys a Global 5000. And so what the boss does, he sends his pilots off to fly Global 5000. Now, it's almost like taking a pilot of a turboprop, flying a Dash 8 for an airline, and then promoting him as a captain of a Boeing 747. It's a massive jump, okay? And the airlines don't do that, okay? You are promoted in increments, okay? So you go from a Dash 8 to a 737, and you go as a first officer, and then you go on to the 74 as a first officer, and then you come back down again as a captain. Or in some cases, you'll fly for a few years, maybe as a 737 captain, and you'll be promoted to a 747 captain, but the jump isn't as big as some of the things that happen in the private jet world. So these are all things that go on behind the scenes that, you know, you're not an aviation person. So that's why I always say, and I'm not trying to promote myself here, but, you know, at the end of the day, if you're going to charter a jet, you're going to buy a jet, you're going to lease a jet, you need an aviation advisor. You need somebody that understands this business. Now, I've been flying since I was a kid. I started flying when I was 15, now I'm 55. Calculate there how long I've been flying. I've flown with, you know, well, I've worked with 100 different nationalities. Pilots, about 65 nationalities. Add the flight attendants, you know, it's about 100 plus nationalities. And it's interesting when you fly with people from different countries, their training was done differently, the standards are different. And you know, you talk to people, you find out why they became pilots, why they became flight attendants, what type of training they went through, where did they do their basic training, how old they were, you know, and you find out a lot about these people. So, and, you know, as a result of me doing this, I've got people all over the world. You know, before I book a charter, I can guarantee you I know somebody or know somebody that knows somebody working for these charter companies. I pick the phone up. Sometimes I don't even have to pick the phone up because I already know, you know, what things are like, what the safety culture is in certain companies. And so, you know, when you're sending somebody out on a charter, you want to make sure it's done safe. Now, there aren't that many companies that are doing it properly. Now, I know they're all Part 135 certified and they're checked by the CAA, the FAA, EASA, what you name it. But, you know, what you really want to do, like with the sports team, you could say, oh, my son plays for a team in the Premier League. Okay. Are you playing for Manchester City? Are you playing for Liverpool or Arsenal, which one of the top teams? Or are you playing for one of the smaller teams? You know, you want people, if you're paying that kind of money, you want the best up front. You want the Cristiano Ronaldo and the Messi flying you. But those guys cost money. I said to a client the other day, you know, they were trying to drive the price down on these charters, and they came back with a price. And I said, look, if that's what you want to pay, this is what I advise you do. Fly commercial. Don't fly private. Because if you're going to pay that kind of money to fly private, the people you are using have cut corners. Now, it could be fine. You could go flying and nothing happens. Okay? But the risk factor is very high. And, you know, I wouldn't pay the money. I mean, instead of paying $90,000, pay $15,000 to fly the family, business class or first class. You know, and you're not risking your life. I mean, let's face it. Would you pay more money, a lot more money, to risk your life? Or are you better off to pay less money and be safe? I was on a flight a few years ago on my way back from Hong Kong to the UK, and there was this Swiss gentleman sitting next to me in business class, and we got talking, and he had his own company. It was a large company, and, you know, they're making millions of dollars. And I said to him, I said, why is somebody like you not flying private? And he said, well, because I noticed a lot of these small private jet outfits crash. And, you know, I'm flying Swiss. I know those guys up front are trained in a certain way. I know they're safe. I said, well, actually, you're right. You know, I'm in the private jet world, but I've flown as a pilot in the private jets, and I've flown for the airlines. And I agree. I mean, don't get me wrong, I said, and I tried to, you know, talk him into, you know, chartering or maybe leasing an airplane with me, and we would get the crew and train. But, you know, he was sold on the whole airline thing. He said, you know, I know it takes more time, but, you know, my people are safe. And I get it. I get it why he made this decision and why he decides to fly commercial, because he stays safe. But don't get me wrong. I mean, you can be safe. You can be a lot safer. And there is one family in Europe, and I won't say where, and they're quite a famous family, and they have 3 jets, and they charter them out. But their pilots go to the simulator 4 times a year, not once a year. And when they go, they always do an extra simulator session every time they go. Now, their charter prices are a little bit higher. Their standards are really high. Some of the people I know that fly for these people, they're really good pilots, but they're really trained well. I mean, you can be the best pilot in the world, but if you don't train, you're not going to stay the best pilot in the world. So the training and the quality of the training, just like a sports person, whether you're playing basketball, whether you're playing soccer, whether you're playing golf, you know how important it is to train in a certain way, and to have a coach that can watch you and improve you. And it's the same with pilots. I always compare pilots to professional sports people. They're both in a peak performance environment. And if you are, the wealthy guy that wants to fly private instead of commercial, and you've got the money to do it, that's great. And you should, and you should do it a lot sooner than what you're thinking. And this is what happened with people in the quantum economy. And a lot of people don't know that Sam Walton built Walmart using private aviation. And you'll read about that story. You can read about it in his biography. You can also read the story in the quantum economy. And a lot of people don't know that. The private aircraft can really help you enter into the quantum economy, whatever. But the training has to be done in a certain way. And that does cost money. So if you haven't got the money to do it, okay, or you're trying to cut corners to get into private aviation sooner, you shouldn't. If you're going to do it, pay the money, do it right, okay, stay safe, okay, and then you'll be fine. Okay, not only will you be more rested, more relaxed, you'll get a lot more deals done, you'll impress a lot more people by sending your jet out to pick them up and come and do business with you, etc., etc. And I've told this story many times here on BizJet TV. So anyway, that's my thought here. So empty legs, very bad thing for everybody across the board. Bad for the owner, bad for the charter company, bad for you that's buying the empty jet. It's just going to get you accustomed to paying low money for a private jet service, and private jet service must not be low in price. It needs to stay high for a reason, and this is really important. And if you're not willing to pay the money, just go and fly commercial and stay safe. That's the most important thing. Last thing we want here is more private jets to crash. We want private jet safety to be safe, and I did a video just recently, and you can click on the link here just at the end of this video, which will take you to that, which is a report I did about how private jet safety has improved this year compared to last year. That's really good news. We are on the up with safety, and that's really important. Maybe because we've been making a lot of noise here on BizJet TV, and so have other people. Investigations have been done, and thanks to technology and AI, they're looking more and more into, the reasons for these crashes. And I will be doing a video, which is going to be a little bit technical, but I'll try explaining it in layman terms about pilot fatigue. Okay, so if you want me to do the video about pilot fatigue, put that in the comments below. If I get a few, yes, do the pilot fatigue video, we'll do it. It's going to take some time, but there's lots of information out there that we've been gathering, which is interesting, and I can talk to you about my personal experience as well. And as I say, a fatigued pilot is like a drunk pilot, and we'll show you the science behind it. And that's another problem which we have, another reason why a lot of planes are crashing. Not only private jets, but even airliners are crashing because they're working the pilots too much. And that's another problem. But anyway, check out this video about how private jet safety has improved over the last year. It's a really good one. Remember to subscribe to BizJet TV. Get yourself a copy of The Quantum Economy, and also read my articles in Avbuyer magazine. The links for those are below. That's all from me on this episode of BizJet TV, and I will see you on the next one.